We live interesting times, to say the least. And I believe that now more than ever before, we all want to hear positive, inspiring messages instead of divisive and fearful. And today we'll talk about sharing voices for good. So please make sure you share this broadcast with your friends, family members, and colleagues. Grow your wealth, live on your terms. Hello, powerful people. Welcome to the Conversations with Experts, the show that allows you to hear from and connect with experts in different areas of life. Our intention is to help you be your best self and create your best life. I'm Milan Levis, the host of the show and financial independence mentor. Are you a busy entrepreneur who wants to be financially independent so that you work because you want to, not because you have to? Then you are in the right place. If you want your money experiences to be different, do something different than you used to do in the past. If you don't want to worry about money when you are in your 60s or 70s, then you've got to start planning your way to financial freedom now. First, download the Wealth Planner for free at Dare to Change Life. You have the screen, the link on the screen, daretochange.com/wealth planner. Okay. And if you want real-time support, join my free Facebook group, Wealth Building for Powerful Women. And here's the link for this group. And right now, let's move on to our main topic today, which is sharing the voices for good. And my remarkable guests today are Todd and Alan Cudaback. Sorry, Todd, Alan Cudaback, and Jackie Bailey. Welcome, Todd. Welcome, Jackie. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely.
We don't get to be on this side of the fence very often.
I know. So let me briefly share with our followers, with our listeners, your interesting stories, your bio. So Todd Allen Cudaback is the author of 6 Keys to Life Mastery, Unlocking Life Skills for Successful Living. Todd's path through life started with many challenges that led him to wrestle with questions like, why am I so down on myself? Why is every day so robotic and dreary? And after his 3rd visit to alcohol recovery, he came to the conclusion that it was time for some big changes. Ultimately, Todd's journey led him to discovering tools he needed to transform his life and to come to a place of abundant happiness and clarity. And that helped him realize that his life's purpose is to serve mankind by sharing those tools through speaking and writing. And Jackie Bailey is the author of Self-Centered Leadership, Becoming Influential, the book, Influential, Intentional, and Exceptional. Jackie survived an abusive childhood which left her voiceless. As a young married mother of 2, Jackie faced the frightening reality that she needed to break the silence of her abuse to save the life of another potential victim. So as a true leader, Jackie founded a non-for-profit organization to support voiceless children. Jackie teaches kids and adults of all ages how to be empowered, regardless of your circumstances, through inspirational stories and engaging delivery as a keynote speaker and a workshop leader. And together, Todd and Jackie are co-hosting Life Mastery Radio, where every Tuesday at 10 o'clock Pacific time, they bring to their listeners inspiring information and transformative tips for making the most of life. And don't we all need it, especially right now? So thank you so much for being with me again, and welcome again. I'm so excited about having both of you here today.
Thank you. It's delightful.
Thank you for inviting us.
So I would like to start with Jackie. The question that I have for you first. So how was it? How was it for you to feel voiceless when you were young?
Well, the reason that that voiceless feeling comes is because you're literally told to shut up. You know, as an abuse victim, you are told not to tell. And growing up with that idea, I was always afraid of what I might say when I was talking to people. What if I told something I wasn't supposed to? What if I said something I wasn't supposed to say? And therefore you become this person who is not yourself. You're not living your true life because you have to be quiet. You have to be silent against so many things.
And I would assume it was coming from your parents, right? Or it was also your teachers, like family, other family members. So who was trying to keep you silent, basically?
Well, it was the person who I was being abused by was the one who would say, you know, don't tell. And not that they always used those words, but it was understood that I was not to say anything. And quite frankly, being as young as I wasn't sure how to even define what was happening to me or what words I would use. And quite frankly, there was nobody I could tell. You know, my family was not wealthy. We were probably living at poverty level. And so there's a lot of things that children in those situations go without, and they don't complain about, and they don't ask for things because they know it's just not possible anyway.
So did you have siblings who were in a similar situation, or it was just you?
It was just me. I have lots of siblings. I actually have 6 brothers and I have a sister, but I was the only one suffering from that particular type of abuse. I think in some ways we were all abused. And my abuser was actually one of the older brothers, which we found out later that he'd actually been abused as a child, not by a family member, but someone else. And so, you know, it's generational. It leads to other abuse. And but I was the only member of my family at that point that was being abused in that way.
And basically you were in a situation, and, you know, I coming back toward voiceless, you felt that you couldn't share with anyone, including your siblings, including your, you know, you didn't have any support system whatsoever, right? Would it be fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was very lonely, and being in that situation made me feel very different and made me feel like I was ugly, that I was unlovable. And so why would I open myself to anybody? I wasn't valued enough for anybody to care what I had to say.
You know, thank you so much for sharing this. And I know that it's probably still not easy to share. And so I really appreciate your courage, because it happens even these days, right? So to so many children. And that's why we've got to have some kind of support system for those who feel voiceless. And I know that, you know, a lot of people stay in this victimhood, but you turned your life around, and we're going to talk more about this. You actually took this experience and decided no more, not only for your, you know, close circle, but for children like around the country overall. So, and I want to come back to this because I know what you do, and it's so amazing and so inspiring for everybody. So I want you to talk about this as well. And I also want to ask Todd some questions. So Todd, could you please share with us how you discovered your authentic voice? And I know that now it's many people hear your authentic voice, and it's very very inspiring for many people now. So how you discovered?
Oh, it was a long road, many trips to recovery. And finally, I got on my knees and decided to give in and started to discover a spiritual side. And the most important part was discovering a feminine side, right? That I had a feminine side and I could connect to it. That opened my entire world. It just blew the doors wide open. I became very interested in spirituality and in introspection, right? Who is this guy? What is he about? What is he interested in? Where is he from? Why does he do what he does? So there was a lot of that. I came to the understanding on some retreats that my voice was something I hadn't even considered for 45 years of my life was a very powerful tool, and that I could use it. And I can remember being on a retreat and hearing this voice in my head say, "People of the earth, can you hear me?" And it went over and over. Those are actually lyrics to a song by Billy Thorpe, but it just kept going over and over and over. And then I came up with the idea that my whole purpose is to light the path that leads others to the fire that sparks a fire in their own heart. And after I had those two things, you know, things began to fall into place, right? I spoke at an event and somebody heard me speaking and came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a co-host. Would you mind trying out for it?" And I did. I fell in love with it. Now people could hear me. I mean, really, that was all over the world. So those kinds of things just clicked into place after I got connected, I guess. Is
a couple of things that you mentioned really very, very interesting. So many people, myself included, have some kind of spiritual awakening after very, very dramatic experiences. I was deeply depressed. And that's like from being, you know, at the high wave in life and then just dropping all of this, losing everything that I created, becoming depressed and even suicidal. And that, I feel like my soul didn't have any other options but get me down to my knees. So I will open up, like my heart open up like really wide, because
that's because you missed all the bricks, right?
Exactly.
Before that, you got these bricks hurled at you, and it just kind of, like, oh, that one's not good. Oh, that one's okay. And then because you don't pay attention to those bricks, then you start to get chunks of concrete thrown at you and kind of blow your way through those and fend them off.
To make sure that we pay attention, right? So,
and then it's a whole road, and then that puts you on your knees, and it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. And something else that you mentioned was interesting. Very few men, I know at least, really aware of their feminine side, of their feminine energy, I should say. And we all have both, right? And it's very important to be aware of both and to actually
it's huge.
Balance it, right?
Oh my gosh. It's like, and then after I began to discover that, I learned that I think it's in the Jewish tradition that they understand that men don't get to get their spirituality until they discover who Sophia is. And if you do a little bit of research, Sophia is the feminine side of God, really. I mean, that's the way that's described. And it just kind of like hit me. It's like, whoa, that's what they mean. That's what they meant. So, yeah, you're totally correct. My whole world changed. And that's another part of my voice was mentoring and showing and talking about that experience for other men, which doesn't happen a whole lot these days, but just being that mentor and that leader, and with that part of my story in the book for men to realize, well, maybe I should look at this. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink it, right?
It's very, very interesting. And so I'm curious, because you wrote this book about life mastery, and I haven't read the book yet, but I would assume that you would include some spiritual principles as well as what I call practical skill sets that we all kind of need to have in this physical existence. So, and I would like to hear from you, what do you think about importance of us being responsible for our finances, for managing our money, and basically not living continuously in a state of survival? Could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, well, wealth, we could talk about this all day, but wealth is big, but wealth doesn't always pertain to fiduciary things, right? Like money, but wealth comes from the whole package of being on this earth and being a human. And I think once you discover your purpose, once you discover that you are to be of service, and you put those things together, things seem to flow. Things seem to connect. Things seem to flow. I don't worry so much, and I don't like to fuss over money. I do know what to do to call it to me, to bring it to me when I need it, and I don't need a whole lot. I just need a whole lot. I just need to be able to collect things like her behind me, right? Just kidding. But wealth isn't all about money. It's about the whole being and living from your heart, really, and being on purpose and service, and especially service to whatever it is that you believe gives you power. God, Allah, the dude, the tree, whichever. I mean, that's why we're here. Did I answer your question?
Yes, well, that's your answer. So, so thank you for sharing your perspective. And I agree with you that wealth is not only financial wealth, and also a lot of people who actually have a lot of money, let's say in the bank, and they or under the mattress, the old expression, they still feel insecure. They still feel that they don't have enough. They never have enough. So I always say that security doesn't come from your bank account. Security comes from from your inner state of being, and then some. So
there's another part of that though too that I would just like to say, and that is you mentioned people putting it in their mattress, and that's kind of hoarding. And if we make money and we hold on to money, then we really don't open up the ability for it to flow back to us, right? So you have to use money in your personal life, your business life, and make it flow. And the only way to make it flow is to use it to help that flow. When you find yourself hoarding and holding on to it, the flow stops.
Right, and that's why we call money currency. Because it has to flow, and it has to circulate. It has to come to you, and it has to come from you as well. So exactly. Totally agree with you. And I want to talk to Jackie about. So Jackie, could you share how you inspire? And I know you work with mostly young people, but probably some adults. How you inspire and help people to discover their voices and become more confident through this discovery of their voices?
I love that question. Thanks, Milan. Well, finding your voice is a journey. And once you find it, you feel empowered to share it. And what we do in our programs at the Speak Feed Lead Project for both young people and adults is we really help them. We give them a stage, essentially, to discover the experiences they've had, which have given them a value system, and which have given them stories that can inspire other people in their journey to find their voice. And as you say, it's like currency. The more you put out, the more you're going to get back. And so that's what we try to do at the Speak Feed Lead Project, is empower individuals, whether they're as young as 10 years old. And yes, we work with adults as well, to find that unique message they have, that when the opportunity comes to share it with the world, they're ready and they can deliver it with power and inspire other people to make the necessary changes they need in order to feel empowered. And so it's this wonderful circle. And what we find the children most need is that confidence to just have conversations with people. And parents have told me after a few weeks of our program, hey, my kid is talking to me. He or she will actually have a conversation with me, and they'll look at me when they're talking to me. And that makes all the difference. When children start feeling confident to share their voice in conversation with people, they're going to feel empowered to share everything, and what they love.
And I think right now, so many children, because of the confinement and, you know, the situation that we're in, they need to have some kind of outlet to speak up. And maybe some are stuck in a very unhealthy situation. Maybe some really miss their friends and it gets them depressed. So what you do right now, I think it's more important than ever before. I mean, if we always needed something like that, some leadership in terms of people who know what children need, basically. We often say, you know, what women need or what men need. How about what children need, right? And that's what it's essential, because it's our future, it's their future. And for you to do this work right now, especially in this kind of situation we are still in, and God knows for how long we will be, it's so essential. I can't imagine how many lives you probably saved through your work, because you give them voice, right? So I'm just like overwhelmed with gratitude right now.
Well, thank you. And you're right. Right now, I think the children of the world, children of the planet, have suffered more through this pandemic than anyone realizes, and more than we would like to admit, because when we can actually see what's happening, we would be horrified. Because even businesses that are lost are affecting families, and that's affecting children who are unable to really share what they're feeling
and express, right? They can't express it.
Exactly, because they read the energy that their parents are giving off, which is worry, it's stress, it's fear. And they're sometimes misinterpreting that, but they're taking it all on themselves.
Yeah.
And our suicide rates have risen 30% in the last year. I mean, children are just feeling hopeless.
Wow, that's astonishing. It's like, you know, we often talk on the TV, we often talk about damage to the businesses and how people, you know, suffer because they, you know, cannot go to, I don't know, see their loved ones. But when we think about children and what they experience, in addition to not being able to play with their friends and see their parents worried about money and all of this stuff, it's just tremendous. So, like I said, you know, thank you so much for the work that you do and for really being a leader and in this voiceless group of our population. So, Todd, I want to switch back to you, and I know that you were the founder of this radio show, right? That Life Mastery, and you also wrote a book about this. So tell me, now that you discovered your feminine side and that you deeply rooted in spiritual principles, what makes your heart sing these days?
Hanging out with Jackie every Tuesday at 10 a.m. in the morning Pacific time, and rubbing elbows with people on the cutting edge of spirituality and all life mastery, abundance, manifestation. That really warms my heart every Tuesday. I also own a machine shop, and I employ 12 people. And I make, so basically that machine shop supplies them with the income for them to live their life. So there's that. I'm very involved in an organization called Toastmasters. Actually, we both are. And you know, Jackie described, you know, when you find that voice, when you find that inner speaking part of you and you let that out, it's huge. And when she's working with kids, you watch these kids and you think, that's the future president of the United States talking right there. I'm not kidding. It is that empowering. It's the same with people that find leadership and find their voice, especially in an organization, Toastmasters, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're actually working on that, right? They just do these things. They show up, they do a couple of the things, and then after like 8 months, they are rocking it. It's just amazing. And basically what you see is the lights come on in their eyes. That's what you
And
see.
it's a beautiful
and to
thing
witness
to see.
that, to be a part of it. Oh my gosh, I get chicken skin right now just talking about it because it is that powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so now I want to ask you about your books, because I know that both of you published very interesting books. So, Jackie, would you like to share what made you really want and be excited about writing these books? Because it's a big effort and it's probably a significant investment as well. So usually people write because they cannot not write, all right? So what was your driver?
Well, since I was a young girl, I always wanted to be a writer. And in fact, in 8th grade, I turned in a fictional writing assignment and I got an A++. And that validated for me and boosted my confidence enough that I thought I am definitely going to be a writer someday. And so it was always something that sat in the back shelf of my mind thinking, what would I write about? And I went through a career in dentistry. And after coming off of 25 or 30 years of that, I thought, what am I going to do now? And I decided to become a consultant for dental management and helping practices to become more successful. And I started to write a book about leading teams in a dental practice, because that's where I saw a lot of the weaknesses in their success was with communication in teams. I started to write this book, and about the same time, I joined Toastmasters International, which Todd has made reference to. And I immediately went into leadership positions, and for 4 to 6 years, I was serving in leadership and did not have time to write my book. And after those terms of leadership was over, I thought, now I can sit down and start writing again. But I realized I had a different message this time. It wasn't necessarily about leading teams, but I learned through my experience as a leader of this nonprofit organization that I had developed skills to make me an exceptional leader. And that's what my book is about, is how individuals develop traits and characteristics and skills to lead their own lives. And that way they can lead teams when called upon.
Oh my God, I love it. I just...
Leadership is an acronym. Self is those 4 characteristics: sacrifice, empowerment, love, and friendship. So when you are self-centered, you will be exceptional.
That's absolutely wonderful. I just love it. You know, sometimes when we use word leader, we think about someone else. But I'm a big believer that we're all leaders in our own life. And, you know, if you're not a good leader, then you probably would not have extraordinary life. And that's why it's so important to lead your own life before you lead someone else. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. What about you, Todd? Like, tell us what drove you to writing your life mastery book.
Honestly, I did it because Jackie had a book. That's why I did it. She was showing up and
Is it like a little bit of competition with you guys?
Well, we were both in a club called Professionally Speaking. And, you know, in today's world, you don't really get to be a good professional speaker, at least get accepted unless you have a book. And she showed up with the book and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. If she can do this, I can do this. But in retrospect, I discovered the 6 keys, the things that I learned when I was in my mid-40s that changed my life. And I always thought, gosh, if I would have just understood these principles when I was in my 20s, how different life would be. Now, I don't regret anything that I've done, Ben, or anything that has occurred. But I just thought, wow, if I had these keys when I was younger. So I really wrote the book for the younger generation just to plant some seeds, right? I wasn't trying to change their life. I just wanted to give them an idea of what's available to them and some simple keys that will unlock huge doors for them for the rest of their life. So that's 2 main motivators. Jackie being the number 1.
Well, you see, Jackie, you already have someone who you inspired to lead his life, right? And right. That's right. That's great. So I know that both of you are amazing, and you have this show that Todd, you called Life Mastery, right? Radio show. And so would you mind, either of you, share a little bit about what this show is about and how people can tune in to this show and hear from you on a regular basis?
Go for it, Jack.
Well, it's Todd's show. Todd started it, so he's got this vision. But I'll tell you my experience with it. Todd asked me if I would be a co-host with him 2 years, almost 3 years ago, I think. And you know what? Let me tell you something funny. I always thought Todd was a little woo-woo. He was a little bit out there in that kind of weird spiritual plane. I was raised in a more religious environment, so that was where my spirituality came from. And I thought, well, I'm open-minded. I would be happy to, to learn about some of these guests. And so even just after the first 2 or 3 guests that were also in that little woo-woo area, I began to learn so much from them. And I found the commonality in our spirituality. It wasn't that you had to believe this certain way or on this certain thing. It was that we all experience the same feelings, no matter what we call it, whatever that belief system is, we all experience spirituality similarly. And so my eyes, not only my mind, my eyes were open to see things in a different way and to experience spirituality in a different way. So for that reason, I'm very grateful for Todd. And that's what he's given back to me. If I was the one that inspired his book, well, he's the one that's inspired me to have a greater understanding of the world around us. So I'll let him tell you what the purpose of it was, but that's what I've received out of it.
And that's the opportunity for you to share your voice with wider audience. That's I love how you guys like dance, guys and girls, how you dance with your energy, with your support for each other, with your leadership for each other. It's really incredible. And I also like how you described, Jackie, that maybe you came to spirituality from a different background, so to speak. But it doesn't matter. We all feel that there is something bigger than us, some
Right.
kind of intelligent love or a loving intelligence that run this show, right? Run our lives. And just appreciation for that. That's, I think, what unites us in terms of our spiritual devotion, because we all know that there is, there is something bigger than just everyday challenges, everyday successes. It's something. There is something bigger than that. So thank you so much. I have the link. Whoever is watching us live or in recording, the link is on the screen. It's lifemasteryradio.net. And I think you have your show every Tuesday, 10 o'clock Pacific. So people join. You see this 2 amazing individuals, very raw, all went through their own obstacles in life, like most of us do. And now they share and inspire others with their stories, with their sense of purpose, right? And I think that both of you did not spend your life searching for purpose. Purpose kind of found you at some point in your life, and now you sharing your lessons with children, with adults, with whoever is willing to really see a life in a different perspective, not like what life can, what I can get from it, but how can I enjoy the most of what I've been given through the divine gift. Because I think that our lives are gifts to us, and we should get the most of it, right?
Especially through service. That's probably the biggest thing that Jackie and I have in common is we're both into service work. We both want to empower people and others to improve themselves.
And I so agree with you, because I noticed that the best satisfaction, the best joy we experience in life when we give, right? And it's like, no matter, people like to receive as well, but it's like, it's a very different vibe when you give and you see the results of your giving, like Jackie, when you work with your children that work with you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Jackie, for being with us today. I really, really appreciate your sharing, you being real, you being raw, and just sharing your journeys and sharing your services. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who is listening to us today. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to see you next week, next Wednesday at 10 o'clock Eastern Time for the next episode of Conversations with Experts. Have a beautiful day. Take care. Bye. Grow your wealth. Live on your terms.